Hi, my name is Sharon, and I garden on a large yard in a small town in east central Saskatchewan, Zone 3. Welcome to my Sass Garden. My Sass Garden is officially 1 year old, and thank you to everyone for joining me in this celebratory video. So here's where I sat a year ago introducing myself to you and telling you what I was planning. And you know, a big part of me thought that I was absolutely crazy that it was the most ridiculous time to be starting a YouTube channel about gardening in Zone 3 in September, just as we were all, thinking about putting our yards and gardens to bed. I'm looking forward to the future of this channel. I have an idea to take my Sass Garden on to include your Sask Garden, featuring other Zone 3 gardens in the province. And I think we're going to have one of those features very soon. And so if you have not yet, hit that subscribe button so that my videos show up on your YouTube feed. So first we're going to have a stroll around the yard, but stay for the end where I've included a bunch of photos from my viewers on their yards and gardens. I am genuinely grateful for all the love from all of you, for all the thumbs up, all the comments, the questions that you ask, and just the general encouragement. It really means a lot to me, and I truly, truly appreciate it all. So let's go for a stroll and see how it all looks 1 year later. Middle of September, and you can see that the fall is definitely setting in here. The trees, these are ash trees, starting to turn yellow. All we need really is one hard frost and those leaves just all fell to the ground like rain. So they aren't very long lasting, unfortunately. They do have a nice yellow color if the conditions are right. And then just moving on to the front of the house, you can see that the autumn joy sedum are starting to color up nicely. And also at this time of year, the hens and chicks tend to put on a lot more color as the cooler nights come along. This is high bush cranberry, and it should turn a very nice red color in the fall. You can see some of the leaves are starting that already. There's just one sort of a teaser of things to come, I guess. And then coming along here, you know those Dusty Miller, this is the new look Dusty Miller, and they should survive very well through a couple of frosts. Now, we've already had a couple of frosts, but they were light, not killing at all. And you can see here, of course, this is the front of the house where things are a little bit more protected as well, but the zinnias have not been touched at all, and they aren't particularly frost hardy. They are starting to fade. Even the new blossoms just aren't quite as full as I know given time they may get a little fuller, but they just seem to, I think it's the low light levels, they just seem to languish a little more at this time. This was a change right here. So along here I had all of the Happy Returns daylilies all along, and then there was another maybe dozen or so just in through this area. We took them all out, and in here I've planted 2 hydrangeas. One is Firelight and the other one is Little Quickfire. And I also have been I've been working on this just the last little while, and that is taking out the stones that, actually just like that, I had stones all the way along as a border, but I'm changing it to these bricks instead. I've run out of bricks, so that's probably as far as I'm going to get for this year. And next year we'll, probably continue along the driveway as well as just along there, just along that juniper hedging right there. But these big rocks here, I like those, and I think they will stay there. In here, I'm going to add more things. I do want to use a lot more autumn joy sedum or tall sedum. I think I've got a couple dozen little starts that I started this past year. I could use those, and I've also been considering using Anthony water spirea. I have a couple in the back that are in a little bit shady position. They could do much better in a full sun location. Putting those spireas in here would give that spring and summer color that would be needed before these hydrangeas actually start doing something. Probably, I'm going to guess, maybe early to mid-August, which is definitely when the spireas would be fading. But at the same time, the autumn joycetum would be starting to look like something. So that's kind of my plan today. You know, that always changes. So I thought we go over to the gravel garden next. Oh, I could just mention while we're here that the pots along the driveway with the bacopa and the nemesia, geraniums and Dusty Miller, I think they've all done really well. The geraniums definitely need grooming a bit. I meant to do that yesterday, you know, never got that done. The bacopa is still doing well. The nemesia, I won't grow again. I can't say that I was really all that thrilled with it. I've not deadheaded these at all. And, you know, it appears that they definitely should have been deadheaded, although those are the new buds at the top. I'm curious now if I'm going to get any seedlings anywhere from that. But look at the bacopa. It's really done well. Again, this middle pot that gets a little bit of midday shade does much better than the pot right by the front step that gets full sun all day long. But, you know, overall, this is the third pot here. Overall, I'm very happy with how they turned out, with the exception of the nemesia. Instead of the 2 nemesia in each pot, I should have just went with a third bacopa, which is generally what I do. And the other thing I think would have been nice would be to have pink bacopa and the new look Dusty Miller instead of the silver lace. Is that's what it's called? This cut leaf one, which grows kind of big and a lot bigger and lankier than I would really like. I can show the ones in front of the garage now too that has also the dichondra, which I've trimmed once already and I need to trim again. They just grow so long. They'd be great in a hanging pot, and they're also quite drought tolerant. So, you know, if it's a hanging pot that's a little bit more difficult to water, that you don't want to have to water every day, that would be a good choice. These did okay, but this, I think it's silver lace. This Dusty Miller grew taller and a little more bushy than I would have preferred, I guess. The new look, I really prefer this new look. I like the size of the leaf. And it tends to give a lot more white cast over grayish. But, you know, it's got lots of texture, different textures with the leaves. And it, you know, it's possible probably to do an all gray container. Kind of might be nice, like a monochromatic container. I would do this Dusty Miller, this silver lace one in the back, probably plant about 3 and they'd grow quite tall in the back like that. Last year these bloomed for me. I don't know if they will this year. Last year we had a particularly long growing season. 3 of those. They all look about the same, all quite drought tolerant. In the greenhouse, we don't have a whole lot going on except for the tender house plants, hibiscus, that cool geranium. I don't like the flowers, but I love the leaf. The hibiscus I bought on sale for $2 each. Even if they give me a short amount of enjoyment, I'm good with that. I have, yeah, see again, there's a little green aphid there. right there. Oh, I think I dropped it. Anyways, I've sprayed them twice now for aphids. I know hibiscus are kind of aphid magnets, and so I'm going to have to keep a watch on that. And then here I have a couple of Diplodenia that also I bought on clearance for $2 each. They're just starting to set some buds now. I was reading about them this morning. They actually don't prefer to flower in temperatures, nighttime temperatures below 18 degrees C. So, you know, July and August maybe. And there's my one pepper holding out. I've gotten rid of all the rest of them. And I thought these would be growing on a little bit, but I think that they're really not growing, that they're just kind of hanging on. So I'm going to be taking this apart very soon. Overall, I was thrilled with how the pepper harvest went, and there is a video on the pepper harvest from in here versus the pepper harvest from outdoors. I just potted up these bowls with pansies maybe last week. They're doing well. I can't, and you know, we've had fairly hot temperatures the last few days, so they are still doing quite well considering they like cool and damp conditions to grow. Today would be a perfect day for them. This section is winding down here. This did well, this pot. I like it. I actually ignored it most of the summer. It's currently, I don't know when the last time was that I watered it, to be honest. So yeah, it's doing well. And then here is the gravel garden. So I had made some changes in here. That bench that's over in the distance, that used to sit right here. But we've changed this to make it look like kind of like a walkway into the gravel garden now. Everything is doing well in here, even the little weeds that came with the gravel, but you know, I don't think it's going to be that difficult to manage them. I have this small little path that kind of rings around here, and I had talked about, wait, let me turn around here. I had talked about how this area right here, eventually, where this little broken brick is, how that will probably eventually get some sort of an arbor of some type. Either maybe Andy will build one, or maybe I'll get one of those black metal ones. I also like those. And just a kind of an entrance into the gate or into the gravel garden. Here we planted grasses. These are Carl Forster grasses. And I had 2 left over. I wasn't sure if they should be put here or not, but I think I will put them here, and that's going to just allow that small amount of privacy, so it's not wide open to the street as it would otherwise be. Like when you're sitting on the bench, it's kind of wide open in that direction. The plants are doing well, well enough. In here are salvias. There's some Millennium allium. These dark leaf sedum that I just love. And this one is not quite wide open in its flowers. I don't know if it's going to, or if that's going to be the extent of it. We'll have to see as the season progresses, but certainly beautiful color, beautiful contrast in color for the month of September. And all of these salvias are Pink Dawn from the Color Spire series. That's a spirea right there. I believe it blooms a light pink, and you'll see some iris I've planted in, some standard bearded or the short bearded iris. Then I planted some just some low growing sedum as well. These are blue elf. Love the color contrast on those as well. My plan is to maybe get a bigger feature in the center there, but for now we've put this bird bath, and that's really all I would get. I wouldn't go with any kind of, because we don't have any kind of electricity that runs out here, I would be staying with this kind of a feature, just a bird bath. And around the bottom it's just got 3 cat's pajamas Nepeta. Little tip if you have a bird bath. If you have old pennies, and I can't remember what year, prior to 1970 or something like that, they have a lot of copper in them, and it'll keep your water in your bird bath a lot more clear. In the back we also use copper piping, you know, like plumbing pipe, and that also works very well for keeping the water clear. That is the Dalmatian bellflower that I planted from seed back in January, February. It has been blooming pretty much non-stop since I planted it out. And then I have this grouping of sedum here, the taller sedum, as well as the low-growing sedum. I love this one. This one I think is called Atlantis. And I really like the variegation, as well as that just yellow, you know, that peachy yellowish right there. I think those are the blossoms. Very cool looking. Over here a few more sedum, as well as penstemon, yarrow, and Veronica. Just kind of a mix of things, but I'm trying to keep it from not getting too crowded looking. I'd still like to see the gravel and the stones. Along here, this is kind of the hill that goes up to the rock garden, and so I have found a few things to plant in here. There's still some building up to do with rocks and such. And now that I've gotten the rocks out of the front yard, I'm going to be adding them in here and just doing maybe a little bit more of a look like what is in the rock garden up there. So we'll head on up there to the rock garden. It's getting to that time of year where I'm going to start cutting back. First will probably be the daylilies, where I cut them back by half. You know, I think there's still enough color going on here. The echinacea, this sedum right here, that's a back and black sedum. Dianthus are blooming. Still some blooms coming on the sedum kamchaticum on top of the hill, and of course the Goldstem rudbeckia is, I mean, these are the times, this is the time that these 2 perennials for sure, the echinaceas and the Goldstem rudbeckia, they really shine at this time. This ajuga, black scallop ajuga and marble ajuga, they have really put on a lot of growth. I'm happy about that because I do want to be able to move some of it. This area has filled in completely with hens and chicks, sedum, phlox. What else do we have? The dianthus. There's a Dalmatian bellflower in there, another little sedum, a few weeds. And yeah, you know, it's year 3, I think, for this rock garden. And so you can see here all those stumps still sticking out. And that is from the lilac that I cut out. Killed the stumps, but didn't pull out the entire lilac. And then I just covered it. And I thought, well, you know, they're going to die eventually. And I kind of don't think that's all that bad a look. It does seem to be kind of a natural look, which is really what I'm hoping to achieve here, more than very curated and very controlled. I am hoping for a little bit more of a natural look, just like this great big sow thistle. that's hanging out here. Missed that yesterday. Here we have Back to the Fuchsia Salvia. This is another one in the Color Spire series. Love this plant. This is its second bloom. Not as, not as strong and not as vibrant as it was in the spring. Probably got something to do with the light levels, but just having a rebloom like that, which, as I said, it's not as big as the first bloom, but I'm still quite happy with that. There's another low-growing sedum down there, and I think that's something in the Sun Sparkler series. Pretty blossoms and dark foliage. That one's actually going to get moved because it is getting overtaken a bit there. So here is where we removed two more of the lilacs. They were huge lilacs, easily 6 feet across, and I don't know. I had trimmed them down, but they grow very quickly. So that's one of them there. And then there's another one right here. I'm going to do basically the same thing, cover them with soil and compost and gravel and basically whatever I can find. For the kind of plants that I intend to grow in the gravel garden, they don't need a rich soil. As a matter of fact, they prefer, most of them would prefer a leaner soil, and so that's gonna work out quite well, I think. There's penstemon, more of the ajuga, which here they didn't spread quite as readily and as quickly, but still looking pretty good. And yeah, I'm going to have to get control of this Virginia. Just a little too aggressive here. And then just moving on, I should show you these because I quite like them. These are the ivy leaf geraniums, which are Pelargonium peltatum, different than the regular geraniums. I do intend to winter these, but I'm not going to put them into like bags or, bare root or anything like that. I'm going to winter them as potted plants. I'm just going to bring them in pot and all and put them under my my grow lights in the basement. There's the other one that I have. I like those colors, those burgundy and pink colors. This is what I learned about this plant. That's one wire vine that has just gone to town. So if you're thinking about wire vine, you don't need a lot. And I think that they would root very easily just by laying some of these stems so the nodes touch the soil. You could use paper clips or little stakes of some sort just to keep it attached to the soil. They're going to root that way. And I might do that. I'm not sure. I tend to have a lot of, I'm going to winter this and I'm going to winter that, and then I land up with too much. So in here again we have Goldsturm Rudbeckia, perhaps not as floriferous as it was last year. For whatever reason, I'm not sure. The plant looks healthy enough and big enough. And then there's Echinacea in behind it, looking quite nice. I wanted to show you my sea lavender, which is Limonium latifolium. And this is, I don't know, it's almost up to my shoulder, so it's probably close to 4 feet. It's huge all the way around. I cut some blooms yesterday for a bouquet. You can sort of see the autumn joy sedum down there, and then how far up this has gotten. Truth be told, I have tried removing this plant a few times and it keeps coming back. I think they have tap roots. There was a few others in here that I did have, like I dug down far and did remove them. And this one keeps coming back. And so I think I'll leave it. With staking, it used to fall over onto the walkway, which is why I didn't like it. But I put a tomato cage in there early in the season, just a low one, like a half of a tomato cage. And then I used a rebar stake holding up that tomato cage even more so that it wouldn't fall forward. There's actually quite a bit of weight to all of those blooms, but pretty. They don't smell very good, but they do make great dried flowers for dry arrangements as well as for fresh arrangements. So we're now into the back side of the greenhouse, which is also the other side of what's going to be the gravel garden. I've done some planting in here, and there's going to have to be some removal. The lamium, for one, is going to have to all be removed and controlled. Everything else I think I will leave for now. The lamium will have to go. The straw will go because I'll be switching it more to a gravel and stone look. You may be wondering why I've not done any planting in here, and that is because after we cut these trees down, I painted these with Roundup, with undiluted Roundup, and that is to kill the stumps. It seems to have worked, but I do want to wait until next year to see if anything else pops up before I go ahead and plant, because I don't want to have to be dealing with shrubs popping up through my, after I get all the soil and gravel and everything on there and get it all planted up, and then a lilac shrub comes popping up out of there from a sucker or whatever. So I'm just going to wait another year. That's exactly what I did for that little hill in front of the greenhouse. Was I waited to make sure that everything was dead, and it is. And so that is what I did. I know it's controversial, but there was no way I was going to dig this up. There was no way to get a machine in here to take care of this. And so I took the situation and dealt with it in a way that I could manage, or that we could manage a lot more easily. It does work, but I did use it undiluted. It's, farmer strength Roundup, but we cut the branch and then I painted it on. I had a bucket of Roundup, and then I used a sponge brush and I painted it on each stump. And that was several months ago. If I hadn't done that, there'd be all kinds of growth by now. So I'm pretty sure it was effective. I did go in a second time and just touch up here and there where it appeared that I had missed the odd one. Now we're into the vegetable garden. And I guess there's still a fair amount going on here, but I am pretty happy with all my squash. Right now they're all mature and curing. The ones least mature, these are definitely mature and curing. I was considering cutting them and putting them in the greenhouse. I do have one in there for curing. The ones toward the end there still have some green on them, a little less mature. I did cut out a bunch of leaves and trim back the vines to expose all of these to the sun and more air, because that is what you need, and warmth. So they're not as shaded anymore as they were when they were covered with leaves. I think I counted about 24 or so, maybe 25, and I had 5 plants, so 5 squash per plant, I'm going to say. One thing I want to mention is that I used H-Start, I think in the first 2 of these plants, but not in the other 3 down toward the end. I am going to say that the H-Start treated plants fruited sooner. They bloomed heavier. They bloomed quite heavy. Otherwise, in the growth of the plant, in the green growth of the plant, I can't say that I noticed a difference. I was watching closely all year, but they were the first to produce the fruit. And the first two produce vines and blossoms, and or female blossoms rather. And so I think that was a win. I think, you know, perhaps the ones down on the end that I mentioned are still green. Perhaps they would be a little bit more advanced had I treated all of the holes with H-Start, but I only did the first two. Also treated the potatoes with H-Start. I didn't treat the middle row. I have 3 rows in here. I didn't treat the middle row, but the other 2 rows I did. But of course, I have not yet dug the potatoes, so I can't say what that was, what the result is there yet. This is just an empty bed. The green growth, I know it looks weedy, and there's some peas there. I just had some old seed that I threw in, and that's really just my attempt at kind of rebuilding the soil. But this was the onion, and the garlic was here, where this green is, and further down was the garlic. And I didn't seed anything in there. And so, yeah, the garlic, that was, you know, I didn't, you can go back and see my videos. I had a really, really poor crop. I have a few Lysianthus left that are still up, or that I haven't cut yet for cut flowers. I cut the majority of them, and I did enjoy them. My bouquets that took 9 months to grow, at least. You can see it's full of weeds in here, so I am getting ready to cut everything down in this bed and get rid of it all. Cucamelon. There are cucamelons right there. I don't like them, and so I don't make pickles. So this was just kind of a waste. They were interesting to grow, and now I know what they are like to grow, and easy to grow, actually. They were quite easy to grow. You do need some sort of trellising system, I think. I think that the fruit is a little bit difficult to find, maybe a little bit easier now than earlier in the season. But yeah, I don't like them. What else do I have going on here? Carrots. Carrots and tomatoes. There's a book, Carrots Love Tomatoes, or Tomatoes Love Carrots, or something like that. I guess. I don't pay much attention to companion planting, to be honest. But my carrots are doing well. No worse or no better than any other year. I think they're doing about the same. I have pulled some, and you know, we've already eaten some. They're a nice size. They're doing well. But they can probably stay out here, I'm going to say at least another month. The tomatoes, I am still allowing to blush and ripen on the vine until we get the next cold spell. Then I'll pick them all. This one is Plum Regal, and I'm really very, very happy with this plant, with this tomato. It has, you know, produced a lot of tomatoes. I only have 2 plants. There's one there that you can see the size of it in my hand, so they produce a nice sized tomato. And I have actually picked quite a number of them that have ripened or are in the process of ripening fully in the house. They're good. I like them. All of the tomato plants now have been topped, so that I'm not allowing any more growth. And I have thinned them out a lot so that sunshine can get in. Now, I don't prune suckers from my tomatoes. I allow the suckers to grow. What I do prune is all of these, or many of these non-producing leaves. I think they're also called sun leaves. They're the ones that kind of point downward on a plant, and they will never produce fruit. And so I routinely cut those off to allow more light and air into the plants instead of allowing all that to grow. These are Juliet tomatoes, the ones we're looking at now, and they are always very heavy producers. I'm going to say they're much like a small Roma. They're great for roasting They're great for eating, fresh eating, throwing in a salad. They're great for all those things. They have a nice flavor. And I've said before that if I could only grow one tomato, if I was told you can only grow one tomato, I would grow Juliet. This one was the Borghese, one of my seeds that I brought back from Italy, one of my packages of seeds that I brought back from Italy. They're okay. They have a nice flavor. They go kind of, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe a little mushy when they're really ripe. So they're obviously a cooking tomato and not for fresh eating. This is my other Esterina, growing very well. And I've just got it growing up to there. This is for sure my new favorite yellow sweet tomato. I've grown Sun Gold and Sun Sugar, and I think Esterina surpasses those by far in flavor as well as texture. They don't split, and the skin isn't really hard or tough. I do find that with Sun Gold, they split too easy, and Sun Sugar, the skin is a little bit tougher, and I find this to be a nice balance with better flavor. This is another one of my Italian tomatoes. This one is Fiorentini, Fiorentino. And that's another one of the packages of seed that I brought back from Italy. They're good. I have a big bowl full of these in the house that are very, very deep red. And I think they're going to find their way into a pot of chili, probably later today or tomorrow. This one is called Beef Maestro. They're a good tomato. They didn't produce a lot. I think I picked two big tomatoes. This one's got some cap facing going on the top. And so 5, 6, 7, 8 tomatoes it's produced, which isn't a lot. They did produce huge tomatoes though. And then right over here I have another Plum Regal, which probably has a little bit, yeah, it has less fruit than the other one does. Although, I don't know, maybe I picked more off this one, I'm not sure. But I do have, at least a couple dozen or more in the house. This is the potted Esterina, the tomato with no home that I put in a pot and I've been growing here. I have to say that I'm very, very pleased with how it grew. I think it just grew exceptionally well. And look at all just oodles and oodles of fruit still on that plant, still to ripen, still to pick. Lots are ripe. Very nice flavor on these. Along this side, I have the melon. There were 3 honeydew here, and that yellow one right there is a honeydew that's very, very close to ripe. I tried it yesterday and it wasn't yet quite ready. And over here, 3 cantaloupe. You can see that the cantaloupe are starting to yellow and die back. Now, granted, I have not watered here. I have one plant left here now one fruit left to ripen there. 2 over there. Oh, you know, everybody likes funny looking vegetables and such. And so here is my butt melon. That's one melon. I think it looks like a butt. I don't know how that happened, but I think it's funny. Cabbage and broccoli. I left it, I just uncovered it the other day, just in time for all the flea beetles to show up. And just look at them all, just tons of flea beetle, tons, millions and millions. You know, these are just basically right now, these are just sacrificial plants because I took the covers off. I didn't care about the white butterflies or anything. But now I'm just going to cut off or pull all of the plants and just to attempt, you know, no laying of eggs or overwintering of flea beetles. I'm going to try getting rid of them all. I'm going to get rid of all the plants for that purpose. Disgusting. So those flea beetles. Beans I still have, but I've that's my second row of beans that I planted. It's my late row. I planted these at the end of June. There's plenty of time. If you do it by end of June, there's plenty of time to have another crop of green beans. But to be honest, we're tired of green beans. And so these are just basically going to be compost at this point. I think that's it for the vegetable garden because here we are back at the squash. So we'll just continue on into the backyard and we're going to pass my just terrible strawberry bed. You know, it's been doing so poorly that I just have basically ignored it now. And the plan is another change. We're going to change this area, this bed right here, that's basically in our work area. This is now going to become our compost area instead, where I'm hoping to have kind of a 3-bin type of situation, or have it divided in 3 somehow, where I can sift into the center all the time, and then as we're sifting, you know, from this side, we sift it, we get the good compost in the center, and then we would dump the other stuff on the other side and then grow the compost pile on that side until it's time to sift again, and just kind of hopscotch it back and forth that way. That's my thought. I think it would work quite well. I think it's a better place to have a compost pile than back in the vegetable garden, and for no reason other than aesthetics, I suppose. This is a larger area, which would really be beneficial. This is 8 by 8, 12 perhaps, whereas the other beds are just 12 by 4, so it's twice as big. Yeah. Into the backyard. And one of the big changes back here was, there's still one board there, but we had the entire backyard edged with these landscape logs. We actually had them doubled. So we had one kind of dug almost flush into the soil, and then we had another on top. And the ones at the bottom, a lot of them were almost rotted right through, and the top ones were also rotting a lot. So we took them all out everywhere, and we have just put in kind of a straight edging that we're hoping to maintain this way. At the same time, we're kind of rounding everything out instead of the really angular look that it had with the landscape logs. And this part, it used to end right where the impatiens are here, and so we've just kind of extended it that far out. For now, it's just covered in mulch, just to sort of, you know, make it look like it's not just continually a work in progress, which it is still very much a work in progress. And so, yeah, that's been done all the way around the yard. That project has been going on for probably a couple of months, I'm going to say. You know, for a while it just got too hot to work on it, and it was too dry to work on. Like, you know, our soil, when it's dry, it's like concrete, honestly. So it's really, you have to sometimes do your projects really dependent on the weather. We waited for some nice rains to soften the soil so that we could get in there better. and to do the edging because it was tough. The other change at the back here was, of course, all the way along that back fence was filled with chokecherry trees, weedy maple trees, there was ash trees, there was just far too many weedy things going on. So we were in there this year with a chainsaw and small saws and pruners and more Roundup to kill the stumps, and that's kind of what we had been working on for a good portion of the year. I'll just get back there. So from about this area all the way back, it was all filled with trees and things that we just couldn't keep anymore. The trees, the chokecherry trees in particular, were a problem. They had black knot. I then cut them all down thinking that they would regrow. They did, but then they did regrow, but then this past year they looked very, very poor. And so I thought it time to just take it all out. So we came in here after we knew everything was kind of dead, and all the tree stumps and stuff. After we knew everything was not going to regrow, we came in and covered it all with flax straw. I will do some planting in here, but it's going to probably be perennial, more so than tree and shrub. The green that is growing up through the mulch are verbascum, which I've chosen to let grow back here. I think they make, nice, imposing big perennials, and they'll have the room to do that here. I do have more mulching to get done in this area. So there's how it looks in September. I'm actually very happy with it all. I did lose a heuchera, one of those silver-leaved ones. I don't know why, it just up and died. It died very shortly after a big rainfall that we had, like 2 inches of rain or something. And I've read that that can sometimes be a problem with some heuchera. So, that was, for lack of anything else that I can think of, that was probably the problem. Color is for sure coming from the impatiens, which are still going strong. There's also a bunch of wax begonia in the center there. These heuchera are now blooming. I think this is such a lacy, kind of almost feminine look. Those pinkish, kind of whitish, I love these. I love those, and I didn't think that I was really planting heuchera for the blooms, but I really like those. And these bottle brush blooms back here, that's all a bistort. One of the last videos I mentioned that I bought another bistort which has soft pink blooms, and I planted that there. Quite a bit of color from the Heliopsis, something that I think provides a lot of color. It's rock solid hardy. Is no threat of it not wintering. At least that's been my experience. And yeah, these heuchera, I love this. You can actually see this one from quite a distance. And I just think they're so pretty. I'd like to get more of those. That particular one, I'm really happy with. This one, I have 2 of them. This one is starting to bloom just a little. It's got white blossoms. But nice, low growing, colorful. And, they should stick around till a killing frost. So far, they're handling light frosts with no problem. Everything is. Those frosts that we got. I mean, all of the rooftops everywhere were white, but, and everything in the garden was absolutely covered with dew. but it was warm enough lower down that that frost didn't settle. And there's another one. So pretty. And this one's gonna have got all these red blossoms. Just gorgeous though. I think the slug problem is now under control with the slug bait that I put in, Sluggo or Slug Be Gone or something like that. That worked. I wasn't sure if it would, but it did. Just like a handful, not even a handful, sprinkled around each hosta did the trick. And now the new growth that's coming is not as eaten, not nearly as badly as it was. Oh, back in here, bit of a jungle, to be honest. But it certainly has its moments within the year. You know, when the columbine are blooming, for example, there's a bunch of fern in the background. I may have to move those. I see that there are maple trees coming up back there, which I'm going to have to take care of. The other thing I have throughout is a lot of thalictrum. I've elected to leave all these seed heads because I think that they are decorative in their own right, and I don't mind if those seed out. I mind if a lot of things seed out, like the globe thistle. That one is definitely one that the pollinators absolutely love. Bees, the ladybugs pack them solid a little bit later, but I do have to cut off the seed heads because they just seed out far too readily for me. Going along, lots of green color in this area. Not a great deal of other color right, like just through this area right here, until you come back over to this side. And now it's very bright. Suddenly the sun has finally decided to come out. So in here there's some Heliopsis rudbeckia, which is annual rudbeckia, but it does perennial for me, and a bunch more sedum. And the grasses, of course. The grasses just absolutely shine at this time of year. And these two are Eldorado, which are almost the same as Carl Forster, except they have a variegated leaf, possibly just a little bit shorter as well. Duck pots are still doing good. They're Calibrachoa, geraniums, and a bunch of different kinds of Dusty Miller. Lots of leaves are falling that time of year. I actually was just out here with the leaf blower yesterday and blew off the deck and the steps and everything else, and a whole bunch more have fallen. Now, what I didn't get done this year was this square, which I want to remove, make a little bit larger and turn it into a circle. I think that's what's probably going to happen with it. It'll be similar to the trees, I think, except it, of course, won't have a tree in the center of it. And in through here, much the same story. I still have a little bit of color. The Heliopsis are still putting out their blooms. And I had mentioned in another video how the dried blooms are almost perfect, just another kind of dried color in a, more of a tan color than yellow. And they will stay like this for a good long time. I have to cut them down when the seeds are ready. The seeds are not, oh, they're getting close. I just can't have any more seedlings. So in this area, everything's just doing well, kind of, just kind of waiting for winter, I suppose, is a good way to put it. I think that extending the color into the middle of September, we're getting hard pressed for perennials that actually provide that kind of interest, except for maybe heuchera, hosta you know, with the variegation on their leaves. And then using annuals. Here I have impatiens because this is very much a part sun, part shade, more shade than sun border now. And so the impatiens did really well. I was happy with them. They've you know, pretty much gone to town now. And busting out the blooms, no problem. I've discovered that snails don't really care for wax begonia nor for impatiens. There's no damage from slugs on those plants. And then last bit of the yard is this, I call it my shade garden, but this area between the house and the garage, they have pockets of sunshine, pretty much. Goat's beard is all but done, but keeps their foliage nice. This is the thalictrum foliage. It looks a lot like columbine. I like it. It's kind of lacy. I don't know. I like the foliage. It's of course much taller than columbine is. And that will actually turn a nice yellow color, as I recall, for the fall months. Hosta, and this is the Queen of the Prairie right here. It did well this year. I was happy with it. It did bloom. I cut off all of the bloom stalks to prevent any seed from forming. And over on this side, all is well. There's the turtle head that was planted this year and all done blooming. I don't know if this is the first time I've planted turtle head, so I don't know. These look like seed pods. I don't know if they're going to produce seed or not. Interesting. I will probably let those dry and see if I get seed out of them. The lily stems are all Martagon lilies. Their seed heads have been cut back quite some time ago. I see I've missed one here. This is a Martagon lily seed head right there. And this isn't dry enough, so the seeds won't be viable. But that's how many, you just get tons of seed in one seed pod. The dogwood that I cut back to stumps, it's back, which as I knew it would be. Lots more hosta in here. Another goat's beard. Over on this side is Trolleus, hosta, and this is Queen of Hearts. Queen of Hearts? Yeah, and this is Queen of Hearts Brunnera. There's Virginia. There's Lungwort. This one is Pinka Blue. This one I think is called Raspberry Splash. A little bit of leaves, or holes in the leaves there. I don't know what that's from. Ligularia, that's done blooming, and another Brunnera. I like the Brunnera. I'm going to try some in the back border this year to see if that'll provide any more color. Stay tuned now. Don't hang up yet. Don't end your video yet, because there's a bunch of photos coming up. So that's the state of the yard at this point, mid-September 2025, 1 year into the my YouTube channel. Happy birthday, My Sass Garden on YouTube. Thanks very much for hanging out today. And again, thank you for joining me in this celebratory video. Hang on for a little while, because there's going to be a bunch of photos here at the end of your gardens that you've submitted to me. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for watching. See you.